A Jump Shot Hackers production.
My name is Ryan Kardok. I'm from Parkland, Florida. If a Magic Genie came and could turn me to anything I want, I would have been an NBA basketball player. Honestly, I can't remember my life before basketball. I've always loved the game, and I remember my dad used to tell me, when I was 2 or 3 years old, that I would sit in front of the TV for 45 minutes and watch a whole game. And I think that's just a little bit abnormal, and that it's just something I've always developed, a love or had a love for is the game. My most painful memory as a kid, I would probably say it was the divorce. Um, there's a lot of different things that I could probably choose here, but I think that divorce affected me a lot more than I ever knew. At the time, I don't know if I fully understood everything going on, but I know what I felt as a kid when my parents got divorced. And I just felt like, what do I do next? Where do I go from here? You know, and it was just a very uncomfortable situation because it was just a young kid trying to deal with something that I didn't know how to deal with, that I never had to deal with before, and that there was a lot of uncertainties of, okay, will I live with my mom? Will I live with my dad? Why are they arguing so much? What's really happening? I got angry because of it. I would run away from school. There was an incident where I ran away from school one time, and the assistant principal and the security person had to chase me down a half a mile down the street, and I was pretty fast, so it took a little while to get me. Um, and I think that divorce just impacted me in a lot of ways. I became angry because I was uncertain of what was going on. One of the reasons I developed a liking for basketball as a kid was it bonded me with my dad and my brother, because my dad played basketball and my brother liked it too. So it was like a natural bond, and then it became a comfortability kind of thing, where it was a very comfortable place for me to be shooting a basketball or to be watching a game with them or to go to the park and shoot around on the park basket. And so for me, I think that comfortability um, made me feel good. It made me feel secure, where in other parts of my life, maybe I was insecure. I would say the emotion that I felt would be something like joy. I would use the word joy.
That's your core basketball value.
Yeah.
That feeling of joy, love, and comfort.
Mm-hmm.
That's your internal drive. That's what you're all about.
Yeah.
That's why you started playing basketball, to get that feeling right there.
Mm-hmm. And then I ended up going to high school, to a bigger high school, but I ended up going to the tryouts and not making the team for whatever reason. And that was a big, big setback for me. That was very, very hard to handle. When I went home and I found out I didn't make the team, they posted it on a sheet, and they had all the names on there and mine wasn't on there. And I went home and nobody was home, and I went upstairs and I sat on a chair and I just started crying. I just was extremely emotional, started crying, and I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to handle it. Like, this was my life. I was good at basketball. I should have been on this team, and what was in my mind, and I didn't make it. And at that point, I came to a crossroad where I was thinking, maybe I won't play basketball anymore and I'll just quit. Or that other part of me was saying, no, I have to fight this and be able to handle adversity and push through this difficulty. It was a hard decision. I remember it like it was yesterday, where I could have easily chose to quit and not play. But there was something inside of me, that competitiveness probably, that said, well, I need to prove these people wrong who said that I wasn't good enough, and I need to go back, work harder, and show them that I can be one of the best players on that team. I knew I needed to change something, that what I was doing was not good enough. So essentially, what I did is I just created a schedule and I just stuck to it. So it would be 6 days a week shooting, and I would have to get a certain amount of shots per day, and I would just go to the park on my own. And if it's there for 3 hours, then I would just stay there for 3 hours until I got the work done. And I really focused on a lot of those areas that I thought I could be better at. And I just put it on paper, and I had a sheet, And it was this day you're doing this day you're doing that. I actually did have a friend that really helped me a lot, and he was very inspiring. He was one of the hardest workers I've ever seen in my entire life. Actually, the hardest worker I've ever seen. He would, a lot of times we would shoot either in the mornings or in the evenings at LA Fitness, and he was like a shooting partner, and we would basically track our shots together. So sometimes we would shoot those 300 shots that I mentioned together, and he was already in there an hour or two before me shooting. And one of the things that he did was just extremely inspiring was he didn't have a car, he didn't have transportation to get to the gym. So he would actually defensive slide 3 miles to the gym from his house. He lived about 3 miles away. And sometimes I would be, getting a ride or whatever it may be. And I would see him defensive sliding on the sidewalk to school. I mean, to the gym. And so he was just so determined and dedicated to be good that it inspired me to do that too. And then I had to take my work ethic to another level because I saw the things that he was doing. Came back in 10th grade and was able to make the JV team. So played JV probably 3 games, I think it was. Played extremely well. And the varsity coach then wanted to bump me up to varsity. So I ended up playing varsity my 10th grade year. My senior year is when I thought I really took a big step as far as my development. So I continued to get better year by year, but I thought my senior year was more of a breakout year when I averaged 17, 6, and 5, and really was the leader of our team. I felt like I was kind of the glue that kept everybody together. I still had the desire to be an NBA player at this point when I was a senior in high school. And I remember on my AAU team, as I mentioned, we had 12 guys go play Division One. There were a lot of really good players on that team. I thought to myself, man, then maybe I am okay. Maybe I am pretty decent at this game, and maybe I can play college basketball. During my senior year of high school, I didn't really get that many looks, to be honest with you. So I actually ended up going to play at a JUCO for 2 years because I thought, okay, I can go to the JUCO and then I have 2 years to possibly play Division One. And it was always my goal to play Division One basketball. But I was disappointed that I didn't get it. I was sad because I was seeing these other people that I thought I was as good as or better than getting those Division One scholarships. And so out of the JUCO, I had Division Two schools that wanted me, and NAIA and things like that. So after 2 years of JUCO and not playing as good as I wanted to, and obviously having some injuries here and there, I almost was in shock when I realized I wasn't going to get a Division One scholarship. This was a lifelong goal, a lifelong dream. Obviously, the long-term goal was to make it to the NBA, but the short-term goal was to go play Division One basketball on a college scholarship. And for me, I was just sad, disappointed, felt like I was a failure because I didn't accomplish this goal that I really felt inside of my heart that I knew I was capable of achieving. Do I quit and not play? Do I go to a Division Two school or NAI school or something along those lines? And when I was 19, one day the pastor was speaking about Jesus, and he was just saying that all these different things about Jesus and about how he died for our sins and about how we're forgiven and about how we can receive the Holy Spirit inside of us and it will change us and we'll forever be moved because of it and changed. And on that day, it just felt like a rush over me, a sensation that I've never felt before in my entire life, where I knew that this was the Holy Spirit that was coming upon me and filling me up inside. And from that day, I was changed forever. And for me, it was such a beautiful thing because I didn't recognize it, but like now I had somebody on my side, like there for me, and I knew that I was never on my own. It was never just me anymore. It was God, who's more powerful than anything around, who's going to be there to support me and guide me through everything and give me peace. And I think that's really what it was more than anything else. It was supernatural peace that I felt in that moment, that it was like God telling me, you're going to be all right. Like, don't worry anymore. Like whatever your problems are, whatever your adversity is, now I'm here with you through it. And so that situation, you know, with my junior college where I didn't receive that Division I scholarship was so much easier to deal with because at that point I felt like God was with me. Whereas when I was younger and I was in high school, I didn't have that and it was so much more difficult. I really felt like I heard from God to go and apply to these two different schools, apply to UCF and apply to USF and see if you get in. So I ended up going to USF. I talked to some of the coaches when I got there just to introduce myself, but they weren't overly interested. And I just said to them, "Can I just go play some open gym with the guys?" And I remember going and playing the open gym, and I would have to sit out on most of the games because they had a big group of people. And I would get in one game or two games in a 10-game series or whatever it may be when they played an open gym. And I would just go out there and just play as hard as I possibly could, right? But these guys, you know, they didn't really think anything of me. They didn't really know me. I was only able to go to a few of the open gyms. So I started just trying to stay in connection with anyone I could at the university uh, on the team, you know, coaching staff, players, anyone I met. But it really wasn't overly successful. And so I ended up just going to the tryouts. And they had tryouts, and there was a lot of people at those tryouts. I don't know the exact number, but there was a good amount of people there. And I just said to myself, I'm just going to go out and just play as hard as I possibly can and just be a great teammate and just do the right thing out there. And so I ended up going out and picking up full court, diving on the ground, you know, just playing harder than anybody else there. Like I stood out, not because I was talented, but just because I just played way harder than anybody else there. And so I ended up getting a call from Coach Tonelli at the time saying, "Hey, Coach Heath, the head coach, really likes you, but we're just going to put you on as a practice player. You wouldn't be on the team. You'll just be on as a practice player. Would you want to do that?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, I'll do it." And I was extremely excited and thankful that day when I received that call. And so I went to practice because literally they had the tryouts and the practice was like the next day. So I ended up going to the practice and I did the same thing. I just played as hard as I possibly could. You know, there was many guys much more athletic, much more talented, but I just played as hard as I possibly could. And literally after that one day, the head coach, Coach Heath at the time, just said, brought me in after practice and said, "We're putting you on the team. You got a jersey." Like, and there was an exhibition game like a week later, and I played in this exhibition game, um, and it was strange. Yeah, you know, I just tried to every day bring in energy, every day bring in effort in practice, be a great teammate, be there for everybody else. And my junior year, you know, I didn't really play very much at all. I think my expectations of playing at that level were just kind of unknown. I mean, I had played, you know, in AAU and saw like the OJ Mayos of the world and like played against some of the top 10 players. And I just thought, man, these guys are really, really good. But then when I went to the Big East, it's just you got guys like that on every team and a bunch of them. And they're now better because they're 3 years removed from high school or 2 years removed from high school. So for me, it was like a little bit of a shock of how good they were. I remember playing against UConn and Hashim Thabit was on the team, and he was 7'3", really long and athletic. And I remember like driving into the lane and getting to like the free throw line and thinking about like a floater, but realizing that this dude is going to block my shot if I shoot this from here, you know? And so it was just like a level that I hadn't seen before, you know, playing against Kemba Walker and guys like that. You know, the league was stacked. So it was just a little bit of a shock, if you will, coming into that level. When I realized how good these players were in the Big East, after my junior year, I tried to reassess my game and realize what I needed. And I felt like I really needed like a niche, and that was to just be a really good shooter and play really hard and then make good decisions. So that's kind of really the things that I focused on a lot to be in better shape than anybody else, be able to hit every open shot, and then, you know, play good enough defense so that I could, you know, guard whoever it may be. And that was kind of my game plan as far as going into my senior year, but still in the back of my mind thinking that I don't know if I'm going to be good enough to be an NBA player. I realized that it was going to be hard to make the NBA. You need certain numbers, you need certain athleticism, or if you're not athletic, you better be really, really, really good. Um, there's only a select few that can do that. But I just realized that I probably just wasn't good enough and came to the realization of that. But I still wanted to be the best I could be. I mean, I literally would go to practice and I would then go home. And this wasn't smart. I don't encourage anybody to do this. But I would go to practice and then at night, I would run like 5 to 7 miles in the trails or outside my neighborhood just to make sure that nobody was going to be in better shape than me. But my senior year, for a walk on, I think I ended up averaging about 8 minutes a game, which is abnormal for a walk on. Usually the walk ons just come in the last 2 minutes. So I thought in that regard, I was really proud of myself because I was able to earn minutes. And what I believe as a walk on is if you're even with a scholarship player, you're not going to play. They're going to play over you because the coach is recruiting them. It looks bad if a walk on is playing. So I actually had to be better than some of those scholarship players to be able to get any minutes at all. We beat UCF, which was a great feeling. I remember playing 27 minutes against Louisville on the road when Rick Pitino was the coach there. So that was a really fun experience. We played against Providence. We were down 11 points or so with a minute and change left, came back and won. And I didn't play much that game, but I did get in at the end when we were pressing, and I got a big steal.
37 tonight. Oh, another turnover. They get the steal. Howard, they need the three to tie. Fitzpatrick gets it up in time, and it's good! Unbelievable. His second three of the season ties it with 2:10.
Got the big steal that kind of helped us hit the three that put us into overtime to win the game. And I think it's only right that it was a hustle play that was one of my bigger plays in my career because that's really what got me on the team at USF, right? It was me in those tryouts just picking up full court, diving on the ground, playing harder than everybody else. And for me, I think it's always important for young people to know you just always have to be ready. And that was one thing I learned so much from being a walk-on because some games I played 20 plus minutes. Not that many, but some games I played 20 plus minutes, and some games I would play 3. But I always just had that mindset of whenever my number is called, I'll be ready. And in that Providence game, I didn't play much at all. And then all of a sudden, I've been sitting on the bench for an hour, and I come in at the end of the game, but I still got to be ready to perform. I felt very accomplished to be able to do those things and be able to accomplish my goal of making it and playing on a Division I basketball team at the highest level too, because the Big East was the best conference in the country, in my opinion, at that time. I do remember my last game as a player against NC State in the NIT, and I remember not wanting to take my jersey off. So I just sat there for like a couple hours after the game, and one of the coaches came in hours later, and he was shocked to see me. He's like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "I'm good, man. I'm good." But I just didn't want to take that jersey off for that last time because I knew that that might be it. I had these professional contract offers for lower level amounts of money. And I sat down with my head coach and I asked him what I should do. And he said, "You're a smart guy. You're very intelligent. I think it would be best for you probably just to go work a job because you're going to make more money than you would going overseas." So then I just had worked so hard to get to that senior year and have productive senior year and all that, that I was a tad bit burnt out too. So I just decided that I would let that be it and that I would go into the real world. And so I worked a few jobs at different places, just did some different things, but it was just a job where you're just going through the motions. You don't feel like you're really helping anybody on a daily basis. You're not going back to what I was saying earlier, the fulfillment or the purpose of your life. It was just making money and going through the motions and just living where you're not really making an impact. So for me, I knew what I was good at, and that's being kind to people, helping people, caring for people, loving people, and basketball. And so I knew that the only place that I could find that was coaching. I started doing some more individual workouts, and I decided that I need to find a graduate assistant spot somewhere. And my goal was to stay in Florida just so I could be fairly close to family. So I applied to a bunch of GA spots, got accepted to a few different ones, ended up getting on with the University of Miami and getting my master's from Miami and doing that for 2 years. And then one of our assistant coaches at Miami got the head coaching job at Bowling Green State University. So I went to Bowling Green State University as a video coordinator and did that for 1 year, learned a ton watching all that video and being able to just understand basketball better from watching so much film. And then I did a director of ops position for 3 years at Bowling Green State University as well. Then I ended up going on to James Madison, being an assistant coach there. And after that, I ended up going to be a head coach. And that head coaching experience was the best thing in the world for me. I understand it's at the high school level. It's a little bit different than college. But being a head coach is being a head coach. You have to manage the players. You have to put together a practice plan. You have to do a lot of things that you can't practice unless you're a head coach. So I did that for 2 years. And now I'm at USF as director of player development. Love being here, obviously. Haven't been a player, worked for a great coaching staff, and I get to help the guys here. The same shoes that I walked in, obviously, they walk in, and I can help them. So it's just so rewarding. And it goes back to what I say with that fulfillment, that purpose. I feel like this is the place that I'm supposed to be. So when I think about achieving my external desires, it's interesting to me because I think when we're young, we have these goals, right? And throughout life, we have these goals, but they change as you go on. And what I've realized is we can want to get to these certain positions, right? And we need to strive for them, strive to be the best that you can possibly be. But what life is all about is the impact you have on people. And leadership to me is one of the most important things in life. And I think leadership is about influence. That's all it's about. Leadership is about influence. It doesn't matter what position you have. It doesn't matter about anything else. And so for me, it's all about how can I lead these men? How can I help these people become better versions of themselves? To help them be good fathers one day, good husbands one day. And so I continue every day to try to accomplish my personal goals. But I know that there's something that's more important than that, and that's to help these people become all that they can be, and to try to, give them blessings and be there for them when they need, a shoulder to lean on. So really, that's like my main goal. And then also I have those aspirations of, being a head coach one day as well and running my own team. So as far as the transformation that I've seen, it was before trying to reach all these certain goals and trying to do all these certain things for myself. But now I try to be less self-centered and focused on myself and more spread out to help other people become all that they want to be. But through this process, I realized how much I can handle and how much adversity I can push through, and how the human mind is just an amazing thing, that when you think that's it, that you got a whole nother level inside of you and you can keep pushing way further than you ever thought possible, and that anything is possible. I think the old identity was the insecurity, the doubt in who I was as a person. And the new identity is I believe in myself. I'm confident. I can do anything that I put my mind to. I can help people. I can give back. I don't have to be afraid or worried about any situation. I don't have to have fear. So I think if you strip everything away, the family, the status, the job, finances, everything, the one thing that I believe that I stand on is that foundation in my faith. And essentially, there's an eternal life, that if you believe in Jesus, then you believe there's a heaven and that's eternity. So our mortal bodies will eventually be gone, but that's going to live on forever. And so for me, it's that faith, it's that rock. I can stand and still be satisfied just knowing that one day I'm going to heaven.